Hey, we are alive. All's well. Hey, people. Yeah, no problems. We've gotten through Trump, and now we're on to other things. Yeah. Well, in this teaching, I'm going to try and help you understand that the process where people lie, cover up, create false outcome of something, yeah, and leading people into another direction, another belief system, as though it's important that we follow that particular belief system. Now, there's a lot of things I could teach about in relationship to that. If we just go back to archaeology, yeah, and look at the things that that are applied in relationship to even science, it's applied in relationship to a concept behind religion. Yeah, it's got to fit religion, or a good chance your ass is going to get killed. Yeah, you're going to be a heretic, and you're going to be all these different things. And in the past, you would have been tortured in order to stop thinking those things and doing those things. Yeah, and finding things like giants and ancient artifacts and stuff like that had to go away, because in the Bible it said, you know, we're only about 10 to 15,000 years old, you know, and there was no time for dinosaurs. And if they were created during that time, you know, and all this stuff that is people, when you've been lied to, you know, even in the making of the Bible, and the process of God's incarnation, which was an event that happened usually within a 50 to 100 year cycle. If you weren't there, you missed it. You know, you just missed it. Yeah. And people talk about it. And there are things where it incorporates certain belief systems, like in the coming of Messiah, Jesus, or the coming of Buddha, Gautama, or the coming of Krishna. In every case, there was a pre-existing process around that, yeah, knowing there's going to be a coming of this avatar, yeah, and so there was quite a few events leading up to it, so that the event wouldn't be lost, yeah, because it's only going to be about 100 years long, yeah, and if there isn't quite a few prophets and proper people that are researching and reading and studying and carrying out, you know, those truths, not lies, but truths, things that weren't covered up, but things that were uncovered. Yeah. And when those things are read, which are rare, because quite often it would be that those things will be thought to be spiritual. And if they're spiritual, they have to be hidden because of the lying. People will destroy those things, and in order to maintain a lie. Yeah. So like even killing Krishna, kill him before he is born. Yeah. That way there never was a coming of Christ, and the whole thing is a lie. Yeah. So the lie is to be contained, maintained. Yeah. And same thing happened with Buddha. Yeah. There's a lot of people saying, you know, well, even though Krishna said my next incarnation will be a Buddha and my name will be Gautama, yeah, and I will be born at this cycle of time, but not any specific period of time, because it's according to the need of the dharma. And when the dharma becomes changed to a lie, and things are covered up, and you accept the cover-up reality and follow that precept, you're actually following a lie, where originally it was created as a truth. You know, so that truth, it affects you because God exists. God is planting seeds. God is doing things in order to help us see the bigger picture. You know, how really big this is, how long God's been doing this. It hasn't been 10,000 years, you know, and that wasn't made up by God. It's not in the Bible anywhere it says it was 10,000 years. Not at all. Yeah, not at all. You know, let alone, Adam lived 1,000 years. and he had many generations that lived, So for many thousands of years, that cycle in itself was carried on. And the process of, before Adam, the process of creation, if you read the Bible, Adam came on the seventh day. The relationship from the sixth day to the seventh day. And it was the manifestation of the archetype. Now, everything was an archetype. Everything was redone. Everything was reborn. Everything was created. In Genesis. Genesis means that there is no mother, there is no father, there's only God. And it carries within itself life. The Genesis principle, life. And this is a knowing science. This is a very big knowing thing because it's telepathic. It's omnipresent. It's Alpha, Omega. The consciousness that came with God was all-enveloping, all of time, from the beginning to the end. And if you read Shiva, if you read Krishna, if you read God, if you read these things, you'll find that's explained really clearly. And where hundreds of thousands of years are involved in the process of the creation and the evolution of mankind. Literally millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. That's the truth. That's the truth. And since it's the truth is what you're going to come up against. That's what your problem is that the truth does not go away. The truth is behind us, the truth is present, and the truth is the future. So what's important is that I try and do everything I can to give you seeds of truth. And then those seeds crop up throughout the whole world as relationships of new findings, new verifications, existing realities that were taken away, wiped away, but they weren't wiped away. All the bones and the giants and all the things really weren't wiped away. They were found. And if there's even one, that's enough. If we find relics from this and that, that's enough, just a few. That's all we need to find, because we need to simply bring back the truth. And an essence of the truth, the beginning of the whole thing, comes back around from the essence of the truth. So all I need to do is help you find the essences, the bits and pieces of the essences. And they come in words, they come in actions, they come in reality, in real reality that we scientifically and religiously can incorporate into our understanding of this great big truth. Because enlightenment is a big thing. Enlightenment is incredible wisdom. It's an incredible amount of the opposite of ignorance. And ignorance is very common. It's an all the day, all the time thing. Because you can't see through the lie. As long as you can't discern, discriminate, there will always be liars. And how can I prove that? Reincarnation, people. It's a fact, reincarnation exists. And if you look back in the Bible, you'll see that there were giants, and the giants got smaller. Strange enough, they got smaller. Originally, they were 30 to 50 to 100 feet tall. That's what's in the Bible. Original. The ones that came from the fallen angels, that had relationships with women, and the first generation of them were giants. 30 feet tall, 100 feet tall. Really, really big. Really humongously big. And they grew because they had their own genesis inside them. They had an angelic spirit to regenerate, to generate, to create life. It's something that's inside the angel. It's a powerful thing. We create planets, we create life. Yeah, that's what angels do. That's what we're going to witness, is the truth, is that God's not alone in this creation. Yeah, and that angels are co-creators. Yeah. And that's how these angels, fallen angels, lone angels, yeah, when they took seed into women, into humanity, they manifested these giants, and these giants became lunar lord demigods, incarnated physical lunar lord demigods. Now, you can't just stick to the Bible to understand this. You're going to have to read the Hindi text. If you really want to know the truth. If you want to know the truth. Yeah. You'll find that every single time, going back, you go back Krishna, you're going back 5, 6, 7,000 years. Yeah. You go back to Rama, you're going back 15, 20, 30, 40,000 years. Yeah. And there are 10 lives of the Avatar. 10 lives, and we're in the 10th right now. This is the 10th. Yeah. Yeah. So those lives come in cycles of time, yeah, and they reverberate into humanity, but every single time they come, he's dealing with giants, demigods. Yeah. If you read the books, you'll find that, go all the way back, you'll find this cat named Soma. Yeah. And he was an avatar. Yeah. And on this earth, so many fallen angels, so many freaking demigods, ruled by it. They're in Indra. They were given all these names. And you can find them in history. You'll see statues of them that are over 20, 30, and 40,000 years old. These very names, these very beings, they existed. And the storytellers made statues and monuments to the demigods, to the existence of the demigods and God's relationship to the demigods, which was Buddhism. Buddhism. So you see all these statues sitting as Buddha, but yet they're Hindi gods at the same time. Yeah. And they're like Shiva. Yeah. They're Brahma. Yeah. Yeah. They're Vishnu. Yeah. All these gods. And these are our God. This is our God. A singular God. Our God. Yeah. But we don't know this. We don't know any of this. Yeah. We think Jesus Christ is the only living Son of God. Yeah, we have no idea about God. No names, no history, no nothing. Just kind of like came up from nowhere. And out of that, he gave us his only given Son. How are we going to figure shit out if we get all this in such a diluted state to where we now are only focused on the process of Jesus, and there we only have 1/10 of the life of Jesus that existed, of the 33 years, and he didn't die at the 33rd year, even though we believe he did. Yeah. And yet, if you study, you'll find that there's so much written about him living after the 33 years. Yeah. And being exactly the person we call Jesus. Yeah. And walking all through India and Tibet and living in Srinagar and all of this. Yeah. And what did he do? What did he do? He studied the very things I'm telling you. He studied all the Hindu texts. He studied every word that was said by Buddha. He studied every word that was said by Krishna, every word that was said by Rama, every word that was said by Shiva, every word that was said by God. He studied them all. And he saw himself. Yeah. That's how he got self-realization, because he's one of those avatars, one of the avatars. Yeah. So his relationship wasn't stuck in Israel, saving Israel, and doing the Israel thing. The Messianic Messiah reality, dead end. This is it. Once he comes, everything's over with, kind of scenario. And yet he came and gone. So the Jews can't accept him. How could he have been the Messiah if they didn't recognize him? Yeah. So in their principle, they have another period of time for that Messiah. And in the Christian principle, they have a second cycle of time for the same Messiah. So this is a process to where we have no idea of who Jesus is and how he is really the greatest student, the greatest scholar, the greatest collector of all the teachings, of all the history up to that period of time. Of everything that could be found. He went to all the sites. He studied everything. He saw Krishna was really, really old, and that life was much older than what people think. That was an awareness within him. So there's an enormous amount instilled in the Christ principle inside this planet, that if we seek the truth, Christ is inside, already have found much of the truth, and has protected it. He's protected the ancient halls, that are not going to be found until it's time. You can't get into the Great Pyramid and find what's meant to be found. You can't find the caves in America, that are led by Buddhists and set up in the American Indian caves. You can't find them, because Christ is overshadowing protection over many, many things, because it'll be diluted into lies and illusion. And if they were being told, the Smithsonian Institute would go in and take everything and dump it in the ocean or burn it in a secret way, which they did. They took tens of thousands of giants from American grave sites, all throughout America, all the way to California, all the way to Boston. Tens of thousands of 20-foot tall, 30-foot tall, because they found the old ones. And then they found the ones that were killed just 1,000 years before and 500 years before. And those giants were red-haired giants. They were like so many generations from the giants. And you got to think about this. What went on? These are giants, and they started off really big, and they were tens of thousands of them. 1/3 of all the angels fell from heaven to earth. 1/3. And we have no idea how many that is, but it's a heck of a lot. You got to imagine. Because every living human being is a manifestation of an angel. And those are etheric, and we are the physical incarnation. So everything walking around here is fallen angels and angels. New souls, angels. And old souls, fallen angels. So we have this really big ass angels that when they die, these demons, these giants, they have gone through a realm to where they take a physical incarnation, which puts them in to the cycle of death and rebirth in humanity. So then if you study the Hindus, you realize, wow, in the Hindus, they've got all these same demigods keep staying incarnated until somebody takes care of them. And it's always the avatar, like David in the Bible, an incarnation of the avatar. And it wasn't luck that he hit the brow center, of this giant and killed it. It wasn't luck, It was intention. It's the purpose of his life, and it all comes together in that moment, and bam, knock them out. But every time you kill them, every time you burn them, every time you cut their body up, every time you do what you think you could do, ceremony or whatever, you do not get rid of them. You don't. They come back. But they come back lesser, smaller, but still just as demonic. Because they have delusions of grandeur, because they're fallen angels. And they have the same Luciferian intention that carries from that genetic stream of fallen angels that carries with Lucifer. So it's a Luciferian energy. If it's female, it carries the whole entire process that is Virgo, Lucifera, which is the female aspect of Lucifer. Yeah, so Lucifer comes off both sides. Lucifer is gay. Yeah, Lucifer is bisexual. Lucifer is everything we hear about that we think is God. That's who the Pope thinks is God. That's why he's okay with this bisexual thing and all the monks that he has that are all gay. He can't control it, because, his God is Lucifer. And Lucifer's gay. Yeah. And Lucifer has to make relationships that burden family, burden householder relationship, because householder relationship is the name of the avatar. Yeah. The name of the avatar is the householder avatar. That's our avatar. Yeah. Whether it be Rama or Krishna or Buddha, he was a householder. Yeah. And it's not as, like they have to have family or this and that, but their nature is that of man and woman. And their nature is, if they were to go forth and have children, they would do that because it's their nature. And nothing takes the place of that. Yeah, so you could see it throughout history. Shiva with Parvati. Every one of the avatars, whether it be Lakshmi or, the relationship to Vishnu, or Parvati in relationship to Shiva, and Brahma and Saraswati. They're all the same beings. They're all the same beings. The girls are all one being. The guys are all one being, yeah? And they're manifestations of our human consciousness, our enlightenment. What it is that makes us human is God. God's very being. And God's being is a lover. Yeah, it's a lover. Yeah, automatic. It's spontaneous in its nature. It is not based on hate. It's not based on separation. Not based on jealousy. It's not based on enviousness. On none of that. So by nature, when we see man and woman and all that, or Adam and Eve, or creation in itself, what we're looking at is the same thing in Buddhism. Vajradhara, Vajrasattva, the male-female aspect together. It's that reality. That's a real reality that holds God in truth. That's truth. Yeah. But here and everywhere else, there is Satan, there is Lucifer, and there is the behavior, the lifestyle of Lucifer. Yeah. And it's to lie. If you want to keep away people from God, you have to turn them away from God. So Lucifer has to become the Antichrist. Yeah. LGBTQRST. Yeah. The Antichrist. That's all those people are Antichrist. No Christ spirit. And they know it. It freaks them out. They can't walk into a church unless the church has fallen under Lucifer. Then they go, okay, you're great, we're going to marry you too, and all that stuff. But the truth is, and they all know it, God does not accept it. Jesus is not gay, does not accept it, and Jesus is the way. Now, is this a way? Yeah? Is this choice of being gay or lesbian or whatever way you want to call it in a state of perversion that separates love, the very creation of love, the very energy that creates love? Now that energy that creates love is called the angel. That's the angel. That's Genesis. That's why women have babies. That's why in families we beget our children, and souls are continued. Why? Because we're co-created angels. Yeah. But we have to behave. And if we're lied to and we can't discern or discriminate, then we could be moved to a perverted act. Once done, once heard, you can't get it out of you. You're not sure if, in a world of God, God doesn't allow these words to be said. They're not. And in our angelic form, we expect everything to be God. So there's really not an access to discernment and discrimination, because everything that's coming at us is supposed to be the truth. Enlightened truth, guidance, safety, pure ways of understanding, a direction that you take is the right direction. Not that most of the directions you take are a mistake, and found out to be a bad direction. And then you feel like you should blame it on this person, or blame it on your habit, blame it on your disease. But in all truth, diseases are healed, and things are changed, habits are changed, through this influence of God, which eliminates separation. So these gods, these demigods coming in and taking place on earth, they took will over matter. Will over matter. That meant that they're going to eat before you eat. And they're mighty hungry. And there's a bunch of them. And they're aggressive, and their whole relationship is lower psychicism. They're very psychic, very manipulative in that psychic ability. And they know that people are in the evolved process of not being psychic, so they can channel into them. And then we see things. We see from Adam, we see Cain and Babylon, and all these things go on, and these giants show up, and all these things are happening because the giants are channeling. And humanity is picking it up and being moved. So after millions of years of these enormous giants, and finally the avatar comes. If you read the books, you'll find that 50 million years ago, 20 million years ago, 10 million years ago, a million years ago, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, the avatar would come and wipe out these demigods. And one of the key ones was a dude called Soma. Very simple guy. And he couldn't even take a physical incarnation on the earth because there were so many demigods. They confused the manifestations, the aspects of God themselves. And the only one who was clear about what was going on as the incarnation, present incarnation of the avatar, was Soma. And Soma would sit in it and come up with all kinds of interesting manifestations, thought form manifestations, to add to nature itself, and that was marijuana. He created it, in his meditation. It came out of his belly button, the seed, marijuana, and it just kept coming out. Just like Brahma came out of Vishnu and manifested as in a lotus out of the navel of Vishnu. And you got to read this crap, because the stories are great and they're true, and they're not spread in order to delude you or confuse you or lead you to hell. They're there because you need a lot of information so you can get, when you're looking in the world, this is all a manifestation of the archetypal reality that's going on between God and the Dark Lodge. That's always been going on, always. That's why I don't have any problem teaching, and helping you, because I go way back into all of that. And even in this life, I have to study all of it. I don't sit and like most people would think, oh, I can just get it from the Akashic records. I'll just channel it and trust what I'm saying is true. I don't trust that at all. Not at all. I have to study, and I have to then cross-check that study, and I have to bring it in without any illusion or delusion as to I have a belief system in any given thing other than the existence of God. And that as it's manifested, as it's taught, as you study, you'll find all this stuff. But if you go into the Hindu reality, you find Soma, and you'll find that Soma created marijuana, an existent plant that manifested an energetic principle inside of the Luciferian angels. Because he talked them into drinking it. Because they were heavy into drugs. All they wanted to do was drink alcohol. All they wanted to do was do drugs. All they wanted to do was, because nothing really affected them, you know. They were just completely deluded and crazy. So they created all these enormous drugs and alcohols and things that humanity is now aligned to. Yeah? Bad eating habits, you know, relationships with people, relationships with animals. You know, all those things are done by these giants. They have no compassion, no understanding of being humane, you know, whether it be with animals or human beings. None, you know. So their relationship is that they grow and they live, and the avatar comes. The avatar realizes them. Even as a child, you'll look at Krishna and you'll see Krishna had to deal with a demon that was so big it was ridiculous. Yeah? But in every case, the biggest demon, the worst demon of them all, comes in disguise. And is always thought to be a good guy. Always thought to be a king of England. You know? Oh, this is the king of Thailand. Yeah, that was Rama's process. In the Ramayana, if you read that. It's a nice story. It's very long. I know you don't like to read a lot. But this is something worth reading. Yeah? And it goes back, all the way back to Thailand, to that period of time, and the flying monkey, you know, Hanuman, and Rama, and Sita, and its relationship. And that relationship was a reality behind saving the avatar. Because in every life of the avatar is slain. And all the things that the avatar owns is stolen by the demons. And they're kept. Yeah. So in this story, you get to hear about Ramayana, the Rama, you know, who has the same name as Rama. Yeah. And he's the biggest demon you could ever imagine. And he wants to marry Sita, who is an incarnation of Parvati. You know. And it's his destiny. He has to marry, you know, Rama has to marry, the good guy Rama, the avatar, has to marry Sita, you know. And, you know, he's drawn for thousands of miles to seek this person out. And finally finds her, yeah. When he gets to the temple, it's on their wedding day, yeah. And he has the arrow and the bow of Vishnu, this demon. Because he's the demon of earth, and you don't know it. Because all the demons of earth, just like Krishna was relationship to earth, all the demons before that tried to find everything, every artifact about Krishna afterwards, and hoard them in order to keep them from blessing humanity and turn them in the opposite direction. Hitler did the same thing on every single thing that was left behind by Jesus. He tried to take all of them. Yeah. He tried to find Moses' work. All the demons do this. Yeah. It's archaeology, and archaeology is to seal God in a grave. Yeah. And then lie to you. Oh, he never was here. There's no evidence to that. Why, you got to be kidding me. So by the time we get to the 1800s, we got an idiot who's telling you how life existed. Yeah. You know, that we go from a bug and we evolve on, you know, into this animal, a biped, and we go from, you know, into whether we're mammals or whether or not we're cold-blooded, and we, you know, Darwinian bullshit. Darwinian bullshit. Yeah. And he was just up against the Bible, and the Bible was total insanity because of the people's interpretation. They couldn't think of the quantum level in which it was being said. Everything in the Bible was in quantum levels of understanding. A day was like 150,000 years or something in God's consciousness, in creation consciousness, but not relative to man. So man would make everything relative to their own interpretation. Yeah. And if it didn't interpret in your relative way, you know, then forget it. It's not happening. Yeah. And if Jesus doesn't do all the things that Jesus is said to supposed to do, you know. Forget it. He's out of here. Yeah. So Soma created this process that's called Soma. And all he did was just, he took an enormous amount of marijuana on all levels of it, CBD, the THC, every bit of it, yeah, and extracted it and made a drink. And they loved it. Yeah. And Indra was the first one to drink it because he was the biggest asshole. And yet he was thought to be a great god, a good god, but he still was a demigod. Yeah. And demigods can't exist when this thing's over with. Yeah. They have to reincarnate in the relationship of a human being and raise everybody up in doing so. And that's the principle of Buddhism. It doesn't matter if you're a god or a human. You have to enter the same sangha. And you have to raise all sentient beings up. And you come to know this. It's a humble, action. It's yoga, It's not, I come and I'm it, No, you got to go from very lowest all the way up, yeah. So Soma creates this and gives it to every one of them. And they start getting, not drunk on it, yeah, but they start getting happy. And this goes on for 2,000 to 3,000 years. Yeah, because these people don't die. They live forever, And when they live forever, you really want to make them better. Yeah, because this could just make this place no God whatsoever. And it'd be all separation. The demigods would be separate. Brahma would be against Shiva. Shiva would be against, really, truly, read it. It's true. It's very convoluted in a delusionary sense because there is a dark lodge. Yeah, its coexistence in light is not to exist. It's not there for purpose. It's there as a perversion. It's not necessary. Yeah. So someone knew this and said, I can fix that. I'm going to create a new nature. Yeah. And out of this, I'm going to manifest myself into a new form. After I create all this Soma and put it in all the demigods and get all the demigods to go through a process of changing their lifestyle. Yeah, changing their lifestyle. They changed everything from glamours to virtues. He did that just through the use of Soma. Yeah, because he meditated through it, and it was his genesis. That seed was his personal genesis. And when that seed goes into other people, they find out that they have and are made of cannabinoids. And they have none in them, but yet they're filled with it all throughout every cell of their body. It requires them to take this stuff. Requires it. It's like drinking water or breathing air. It is required, but yet it's not something we get. Yeah? Yeah. It's very much like the relationship when we're born. We need to suckle. We need milk. We can't survive. We'll be dead in about 48 hours. So there's this nutrient that's created in the process of the mother. If you take seed, hemp seed, and blend it up into a milk, it's almost identical to mother's milk. And that's pretty trippy. Yeah. So this is Soma manifesting the good mother energy, into these demigods, and that affected their relationship to become more humane, and they began incarnating as human beings. Yeah. And this goes on throughout history. This goes on and on and on throughout history. You got to read about it, and it's there. Yeah. So imagine these demigods are there, and they're, you see one in Rama's time, and the being is, at that time, probably only 15 feet tall. Yeah, Rama. He was only 15 feet tall. A giant, yeah. But still, smaller. Yeah. Because before he used to be 100 feet tall. And that meant that he was colossal. It meant that he'd step on you, your city, your town, your community, your children. Yeah. All your animals would be eaten in an afternoon. Yeah. And, force aggressive, outcome to serve the giant. Yeah, because they believe they should be served. That's what we get from these people. we get the attitude we should have slaves. We get the attitude that if we find a person that's different than us, a different race, that person should be a slave. They should be, I'm a giant, and they're there to take care of me. And we all have that crazy-ass nature that gets in people. You know, we don't give tips, you know. We think of tips as though they're just doing it because I deserve it. You know, not that they have no money, no income whatsoever, and they're doing a great job. And they're providing you a clean plate and hot food. And they're talking to the chef, making sure you get what you need in the way you personally want it. And you don't have it in your mind to think that whatever you're paying, you should pay upfront 20% more to the person who's serving you, because they're in touch with everything once they go out and come back. It's not about, you know, going to McDonald's and buying food, because you should do the same thing there. There should be a way to keep these people out of poverty and in a place to where they don't believe they are subservient. Servant. Sub-servant. Yeah. Yeah. And when you're a demigod, you turn people into servants that you really believe are the better of the bunch. Yeah. They're smarter. They're more capable. You choose those to serve the demon, you know, and they just run around like as a president, yeah, as people in charge of a big corporation, and the corporation is the embodiment of the demon. We have no idea how the magic of this goes into materialism, goes into the land, goes into stealing and taking and leaving people in extreme bad scenario, extremely bad. Like today, we have in Texas people who are freezing to death, yeah, simply because they have no plans for cold. Yeah, we have no plans for cold. We have no plans for cold here. You know, 30 degrees. This is hot. This is Texas. It's like getting snow in Florida. That's not happening. You know, not today, but it will. Yeah, because we have a greenhouse effect, people, and Texas is the one who created it in America. And things are going to happen energetically that we can't explain, because we do not have the consciousness knowing that it's a Luciferian life that we come out of. And all the actions of oil wells and fracking and all the things that we've done, you know, permeate nature, permeates the elements, and it's going to come back in earthquakes, frozen tundra, you know, hot, 120 and 210 degree, 210 in Death Valley just 2 years ago, 210. Yeah. That's hot, huh? Yeah. And 120 elsewhere, and another 140 elsewhere. Yeah, and 30 degrees in Texas. Not a small portion of millions and millions and millions and millions of people in Texas, their pipes broke. And when the water came out, it froze. And they had icicles coming down from the roof, in the ceiling of their house, coming into the bathroom, coming out of the ceiling. Icicles, you're looking up, oh shit, what kind of hell is this? And there's no way to get warm. Yeah, there's no electricity. There's nothing. Yeah, they're telling people to get the snow and melt it and boil it, because it's safer than the water you're going to drink. Because all the pipes broke and shit's in the water everywhere. All the water has shit in it. And it will for a long time, because every pipe broke. That's big. That's big. And if we don't have in our conscious mind truth, if we don't get helped to be sensitive to the truth, then we will not gain wisdom. which will have forethought. Whether it's happening, whether it's always been this way and nice and warm and we never have a problem. Nope. You think ahead. You plan ahead. You dig ahead. You put right pipes in. You do all these things because it doesn't matter the way we assume life is always going to be the same. It's not. Life is very different here in the future. Yeah. And we have to learn to deal with that. Yeah. And that's when we have all these lies going on, it makes us concrete, it makes us unavailable to make decisions, you know, and come out of things in the right way. You know, like right now, we're trying to deal with sports. You know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we had boxing was going on and famous kind of stuff, but it was a rare event. It wasn't like boxing every weekend, you know, and big matches of boxing. It was like maybe only heavyweight, middleweight, featherweight, you know, maybe only 20 to 30 people able and qualified to stay in the ring for 12 rounds and not come out crazy, not come out in a coma, you know, and they all turned out dumb. They all turned out, you know, like what was his name? Muhammad Ali, you know. And you know, there is no benefit whatsoever. And we saw that at the time. We saw people being killed. We saw people battling, you know, to beat each other, and they didn't stop. And they keep hitting. And the guy goes down and he doesn't come out of it. It happened over and over and over again. Yeah. And so many people, you know, in cities and elsewhere, they were going, you know, we're better than this. We don't need this. Yeah, and this is when we're really beginning to develop it. You know, we could have all decided, no, we don't need this. This is really, really a shame. It's a terrible thing that we're doing this to anybody. You know, we're going to illegalize, you know, dog fighting, cock fighting, and human fighting. It should be in the same category. If it's illegal for dogs, illegal for cocks and animals, it should be the same for human beings. But it's not. Yeah, it's gotten worse. Now we're in cages. Now we have martial art, kicking, knees. Yeah, all of that is going on, and you know, we're not in a conscious state of being able to deal with it because our compassion is being wiped away by incessant lies. Yeah, just constant lies. And this has gone on for a long time. And it's important. You don't know the lies come from the mind of these giants, these demigods. Yeah, like Hitler and Mussolini and all these different people. They keep reincarnating. They get smaller, but they still reincarnate, and they still have your loyalty because it's all based on their life while they're alive to attain as much loyalty like Michael Jackson, like Diane, like Mussolini, like the Dalai Lama. Yeah. Why do they need that loyalty? Why? If they're spiritual, why? Why? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It's because their process is to make sure that you're sixth ray. They're not here for love. Yeah. They're here to suck your soul and lie to you about the fact what a soul is. They won't even mention it. They won't talk about it. Yeah. They can't. Yeah. Because they're too busy, you know, in the process of this relationship of trying to get people to separate and not be devoted to each other or anything, but to be devoted to Trump, or be devoted to Mussolini, or be devoted to the Dalai Lama. Yeah. And these are individuals. This isn't like be devoted to, Jesus the Christ, Yeah. And even Jesus never once said, you got to be devoted to me. Yeah. Not at all. You just need to be able to listen. Yeah. Hear what I have to say. Discern. Tell the difference between a lie and an untruth. Yeah. And what it is that makes you spiritual. There is a path that allows you tomorrow to be more spiritual, and every day after that to continue growing to be spiritual. No longer off that path. Yeah. And that exists. It exists. And that's what the avatar does. Every incarnation of the avatar fights to create and instill in people the ability for them to receive the path the avatar is putting out and allow them to get back on that path, but simultaneously, without you knowing it, the avatar is wiping away. And this is done by like in Trump's case. Trump's jumping up and down. I'm the winner. Join my side. I always win. You're going to be a winner too. I'm a super billionaire. Do you want to know what that feels like? Follow me. Yeah. I'm everybody loves me. You want to be loved? Be my disciple. Yeah. That's the whole Trump thing. Just on and on and on. Turn against me, you're dead. Yeah. There's no loyalty. This is a one-sided thing. You got to be 100% loyal to this person, but this person is not loyal to anyone. Kind of strange. Yeah. That just means that what you're loyal to is someone who's putting a gun to your head. Yeah. And if you say no, click, it goes off. Your life is ruined. Your job is gone. Your credibility is over with. You might have been a lawyer, but not any longer. You might have had a big company, but no longer. Yeah. And everybody, as of now, all this time of everybody being moved, because these people move you. They move you. And God doesn't jump in and take them out before they do anything, because the only lesson to this is to allow them to do what they do and dance with you and see whether or not you'll play along with their song. Are you adapted to that song? Is that the kind of characteristic you fall into? And if you look back in time, you look back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, those are Trump years. Yeah. We're in goth, We're in a process where people are jumping up and down and hitting each other while singing music, and hate everywhere in Seattle. By the time he becomes president, Seattle's burning. Yeah. And the place that he lives in New York, 51 Club or 41 or whatever that club is, for homosexuality and perversion, drugs, a nightmare, escape. That was his headquarters. Yeah. That was his play area. Child pornography, child perversion. He hung out with the guy. Pictures everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. His best friend was like Michael Jackson. Yeah. The worst lawyers on the planet Earth. People today who are very much questioned about their credibility as a human being. And they're in prison because they're liars. And they deceive a lot of people. Yeah. And this is where those cultures came from. These were the leaders of those cultures, whether it be Madonna, Michael Jackson, whether it be any of these processes. They're all just a bunch of giants. Yeah. And they have a giant ego. And no soul. No soul. Just an ego. Personality. Giant. Giant. That's what personality means. Okay, so imagine you all actually want to be giants. Imagine that. Yeah. You go through high school. You want to be a giant. You know, you find a clique, you find football, baseball, something to get into. For what? So you can become bigger. Yeah. So you can become someone inside and grow outside. And people can make you into a giant. A delusion of glamour. Yeah. And we all learn this from previous lives of dealing with Edison and all these industrial companies and the oil well companies and the steel companies and Kodak and, you know, everything where everybody was a slave to these companies. And at the same time, all the slaves looked up at their slave master, going, oh, I just love Ford. I just love Edison. You know, all the things they've done for us. You know, look at we have electricity now. We have, you know, all these things. Yeah. But in reality, we also have an enormous amount of people going into poverty. And then we go through these processes to where we get a dust bowl and we get these terrible circumstances that puts everybody into an extreme poverty. And that's because we had individuals who were using and usurping their power of previous life of being a giant and bringing that energy back with them, whether from family members or relationships with other giants. Yeah. You always think, you know, oh, oil well, oh, the giants, you know. These are the big giant corporate people. They're giants, you know. You know, Trump, he's a giant, 6'3", what a man. You know, 6'3" is just a little guy, you know. But he was a giant. In his mind, he's a giant. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. And in every aspect of that is a way of looking at creatures that are not your race. Do you understand? You're an animal to them. An animal. So they're going to get you to believe that you come from an ape. Yeah? They don't. They come from angels and giants and their own demigods. That's their memory system. Your memory system is that you have to be awakened to remember that you're an angel. Because they've lied to you thinking that you're just an ape, reincarnated in this human form, or just incarnated in a human, you know, humanoid form that comes from the ape. Yeah. And yet they live their own. Why? Why do they live like that? Why do they have castles? Why do they have all these things and look down on us and not give all their money and all their care as though they're part of humanity? Why? Because they're not part of humanity. They're not. They're Lucifers. They're Lucifers. And it's time for them to go home. Does it make sense? Yeah. There are 3 regions that God has set up. And these demons have done everything to misinform you and give you the information it takes for you to better understand that if you turn on these people, they go to these regions. But if you don't, and you write books about them, and you say good things about them after they've done all the terrible things, whether it be Edison or Ford or anybody in all of the world and all the things that have gone on, if in the truth, if we can't see it for what it really is, even the guy who did Disney, Walt Disney, if you can't really see him for who he is and what he did, he isn't what you think. People suffered enormously. The whole group of Disneyland is based on LGBT now because it was taken over by the same principles. Same principles. Yeah. As though they're better. Yeah. as though he can have a Disneyland, and he doesn't pay taxes on that like anybody else. Yeah, he owns the whole thing. It's like it's a state. Everything about it is its own country. Yeah, that's Disneyland. How do you make a deal like that? A giant does. A giant calls another giant. And they just look down on us little people. You know, and they call the president the giant, and they call people in Congress the giants, you know, and they call all the giants. Yeah, and we think, wow, only 2% of the human race has got all this money. Because they're the freaking giants. And there's a whole lot more of us than there are the fallen angels. They're only 2% of the whole human race. So God has put his whole flock here. Yeah? His whole flock. Yeah. So our process is do as I'm doing. Exercise these people. Discern, discriminate. Grow up. Yeah? Get your heart completely awakened. Yeah? Yeah? Be ready for someone digging up a grave that's a 60-foot giant with horns. Yeah, be ready for that. And be ready for an enormous amount of cannibalism and everything found around it. Yeah. And this goes back 50 million years. Hey, I just lost. Go there. There, I'm on that one. I got two cameras. Them giants, they can't get me. Nope, I'm high technology. Yeah, so it's a big thing. It's a really big thing in order to alter this scenario. And for you to get the truth, you need to realize this truth and have it come to you, have it come about. So imagine we have all these giants which require loyalty, yeah. And a lot of giants show up in, I mean, there are large numbers of these. They're not just small, they're pretty large numbers. Yeah. It's just that many of them work together and they like to work as teams, because they don't relate to the human. They relate to people who think they're better, bigger, in every way. Superior, like white supremacists, and that relationship can go into people who believe that they're football players, or believe that they're super bodybuilders, and just got to be the biggest thing on earth, or people who play kickball, like soccer, and kids who's going to play football. The kid's not the Lunar Lord, but the kid's a loyalist. And the coach is a Lunar Lord. Yeah? Or the father is a Lunar Lord. Yeah? And all they want from this kid is loyalty. And we all have that problem. Most of our fathers, we want them to have trust in us and to believe in us and praise us and do things like that. Because we're so used to, by an occasion or so, we have fathers that are Lunar Lords. Fathers who work for Lunar Lords and turns their father into a completely different human being. An inhumane, untrustworthy drunk. Because they're loyal to a demon. And no one cares. The wife is just going, you got to go back and ask for a raise. It doesn't matter if you're going to get by. They're all trying to survive with these demons, that they are trying to negotiate with, but there's no negotiation because they're forcing loyalty on you. Yeah. So then we go through processes where we've got, imagine we've got all these children. Yeah. We have all these people. And so many that are peaceful, loving people. I mean, we don't have a lot of people that actually want to go to war. We don't have a lot of people that actually want to just go buy guns, and shoot each other. It's not a nature of us. Our nature is to communicate and learn to know each other and gain from that and gain ideas and fix things, be creative, develop attributes, that are normal in us. But if we are suppressed by constantly, hoeing weeds and pulling cotton and, making things grow for these people so that they can have money and they can have their physical material possessions, and nothing is given to the people, the workers, slowly but surely we get a capitalistic reality, which we think is normal. We think we should have that sort of thing. But out of it, the worst thing that we get is sports. The worst thing, is that we bleed off, from this demigod scenario into an unconscious process to where we're willing to pay people to have pain, to go through pain that you normally wouldn't do. And you just say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you $100, all 40 of you. I'll pay you $100 if you'll go out there without helmets and kick the shit out of each other for that little ball, and just throw it in the basket, and who wins, is the person who gets the ball in the basket more often, or the person who catches the ball and gets across the goal line, but the coaches, the ideal people, the people who want you to be loyal, they have to come up with some pretty tricky ass shit in order to make this game threatening and exciting to the person who's paying for the game. So they're going to make rules, and you're going to have to jump through hoops of fire. You might have to tackle a lion, and wrestle that lion. If you win, then you get fame, you get a house, you get money, you get a job, And that went on a long time. We did that, And then it moved on to where now we've got sports, and we do the same thing. We tell people, that we'll take you out of poverty. Here you are, you're black, you're strong. I need football players. You're a big boy. You're stupid. You got nothing going for you. But I got a team, and I have to win. And there are coaches all over every state that bribe kids to move to their location. Bribe families to lie that their address is in their local area and not, where it's at. They make them lie. And their process is that they just want these kids to play, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, because you're going to get in the stadiums. And who's going to get the ego out of that? The coach. The coach. And the coach debates and builds up the ego of the school so that the school becomes loyal to the coach. And whether you're basketball, baseball, football, it's the coach. Or whoever it is that is in charge of that game. So they get the tallest basketball player, and the linkiest, person, the person who's got the arm that can throw, person batting, person who can catch. Then, okay, you're going to play basketball, you're going to play baseball, you're going to do this. And actually, you just wanted to go to school. But you also have to go to gym, and you have to be recruited by the coaches. If you show abilities, if you can run far, track. If you can run fast, baseball. If you're big and strong, track and field, maybe football. It's all sports. It's all sports. And you're not there for school. You're not there for school. And this is proven. Yeah, because if you don't do well in school, they make sure you do graduate. And they make sure that you get lifted up as a super special person. Although your grades suck and you don't attend and you don't take your tests, you know, and now you're just a personality. That's the thing that you're going to kill, is personality. It doesn't really exist. You've created it, yeah. And it's based on all these demigods. It's based on all these people in our life that believe that they have to literally mold our personality to make sure that we get the right character, so we're patriots and loyal to our country, and we're willing to join the military. Yeah, we're willing to put down our lives, you know, as though we're in the middle of something we have to put down our lives for, and we're not. You know, because it's a competitive demigod reality. It's just in the mind of the thing. Yeah, it's not real. It's not real at all. Yeah, yeah. So we have a lot we have to get rid of. Yeah, and so things are going to get worse before they get better. Right now we have the virus, which has given us an enormous break in football, baseball, basketball, children's athletics and everything. But if you go back just a year or so ago, average schools had 8 to 15 deaths every year. Average schools.
Christine and John, this is the 8th high school football-related death in 2015. Luke Shem, a senior at Wallace County High in Sharon Springs, Kansas, scored on a 2-point play in his team's playoff game Tuesday night, ran to the sideline, and then suddenly collapsed. Luke was driven to a local hospital before being flown approximately 215 miles west to a medical center in Colorado, where he was placed on life support, but was then declared brain dead Wednesday evening. Christine and John, this is the 8th high school football-related death in 2015.
That's 8. One county, one school. 8. And yet, you know, no one looks into it. And these are children that are being led to slaughter. Their necks are being broken, their backs are being broken, yeah. And they're having heart attacks. Yeah. Why? Because the coaches are lunar lords. And the fathers who come in there are lunar lords. And if the kids aren't playing right, then they beat the shit out of the person who is there to say whether or not this is, you know, the referee. They beat the shit out of the referees. Referees don't want to be referees anymore because people are coming on the field, slapping them, hitting them, harassing them at home because they're just doing their job. They're just doing their job. Yeah. But the reaction is a lunar lord reality. It's not competition. It's death. It's murder. It's extreme aggression. Yeah. Even getting the kid on the field. I'm willing to watch you die, son. You're so brave. They're all saying it. They're so brave, and they get back in the, you know, they're brave. Why? Why? Because you put them right in front of being killed. Yeah. And they're brave that you allowed that to happen. And they're brave that they go in with loyalty, trusting. They're one of the 15 this year who won't have a broken back or a broken neck or a heart attack of the team players that are going to play every year. That's insane. That's insane. And in every field, this kind of crap goes on. Check this out. Now, a lot of people think, wow, you know, soccer, what, you're going to get your shin hurt? You know, maybe hit a person in the shin. You know, maybe twist your knee, maybe break an ankle. You know. Because obviously they wear no guards, no helmet, no safety glasses, no elbow guards, no knee guards, no ankle guards, no shin guards. Yet you see this in the game, you know, of lacrosse, you know, which is the same game except that you got a stick, and in your game you have cleats and shoe and knees. Because a lot of times you hit that ball with a knee and you hit that ball with your head. And the other person needs to hit that ball with their head. So you got two heads coming together. Very commonly. Yeah. This is called a pitch. Yeah. When the ball goes in the air, you can't catch it with your hands. Don't you think it'd be better if we tell them, don't hit it with your head, hit it with your hands? Change this freaking game. Because there are so many dying every year from hitting their heads. The person's dead. He's choking to death from his own tongue. "15 minutes into the game. No helmet. And they continue the game. And they clap when they get up. Amazing. Yep. So in the process, you know, we are going to continue taking people, and this is the stupidest thing. I've been saying this since I was a kid. You know, I would never play sports. I would never hunt. You know, I was a conscious objector. I was inducted in the military, both the Marines and the Navy. But I decided, you know, I have my own nature. Everybody does. You have a freedom to choose. You have God, or you have your fear, you know, your personality that doesn't know whether or not it's the right thing to do. But there's the other side that knows it's exactly the right thing to do. It doesn't matter if I'm in a situation where there are 10,000 people on a military base and every single one of them is trained to kill, and I'm the only person on that base, the only person on the base who stands there known as a conscientious objector in the military with a uniform. Yeah. But I will not carry a gun. Yeah. I'll carry a flag. I'll carry a pin. Yeah. I'll carry a medical bag. But that's it. Yeah. And that's the choice. Everybody has this in their life. There's always God. Except that we have a tendency to take what is face value, what is handed to us, as though that's part of God. And it's not. It's not. There's free will involved in this. And this is a mess. And if you're going to make new clothes and you have no material, you have to take out all the thread. You have to. It takes time, but you have to do it. And then you have to decide how to pattern it, to put it together to make something that you could wear. Yeah? That's normal stuff. That's life itself. Yeah? But if you buy clothes that it's just going to go up in flames because you bought really bad material, you know, and every time you try and recycle it, it gets worse and you get more danger because you can't change it. Yeah. Every single thing that we have a choice to do, we have to do it with extreme discretion and discernment. Extreme. And where I come from, it's 99% of the time, no. No. You know? It just depends on the person who's around me. You know? If it's like Tara, it's 100% of the time, yes. Yes. And she doesn't even have to ask. I know before she says it, I say exactly what it is she's about to say. She's very happy for that. Yeah? And that's how we work. That's hospitality. That's intuition. That's relationship. That's love. You can experience this. Yeah? But it's not in separation. Yeah? It's not like that. Yeah? So it's really important that we learn to literally let go. Completely let go and discern, discriminate who people are. If you have anything in you that something about Michael Jackson is okay, and yet I've said all these things, you know, then what you need to do is you know, maybe slap yourself a few times, you know, throw yourself in a cold shower, you know, and think real hard about the fact that Michael Jackson is the reincarnation of Hitler, and that Michael Jackson is a pedophile who had anal sex with little boys from 10 years old to 14 years old. Daily. He was going to prison for it, and you let him go. Why? Loyalty. Why? A delusionary ideal. Yeah. You were willing to think, well, he never had a childhood. You were willing to think, well, he's probably like a Peter Pan. Peter Pan loved the boys. You don't know the story. Peter Pan is the incarnation of Satan. Pan. Peter Pan is an immortal. Doesn't grow old and hates kids who do and kills them. He kills kids. That's what Peter Pan does. You got to read the book. You should read shit. Don't depend on movies. Don't depend on what Michael Jackson says. Yeah. Take the time to study some stuff. Yeah. There's hardly a poem from the past that isn't direct demon. Yeah. And yet, a lot of people think that those artists were like angels in disguise. You know? Edgar Allan Poe. Really? I mean, think about it. You know? And the whole process of our ability to be able to heal has to do with recognizing, you know, what's come, what has been here, and that it's going to come back. Yeah, no question about it. You know, Hitler will come back. You know, these giants come back. They come back smaller. Hitler comes back, and he doesn't come back looking like Hitler. Yeah. He comes back looking a way in which you would accept, because that's how they work. And it depends on the life and the time. If it was the time of Hitler and everybody was following dictators, 5 major dictators on the planet at the time, and millions of people following each one, chances are you're one of those followers. Yeah? And only 5 of them are manifested. But that means that level of incarnation, that cycle of time, meant that all the people that were incarnated were there for that cycle of time. Yeah. So very available, for Hitler. We may not have believed in Hitler or anything like that, but you created Hitler. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then Hitler does what he does and kills what he does and does all the things he does, and then comes back as Michael Jackson because he got away with it. So many evil things as Hitler that you don't know he did. So many evil things in relationship to God and your soul and your relationship to Jesus Christ. He did everything he possibly could to make sure you would never receive a blessing from the true Christ, only from false prophets. Yeah. And that was Hitler, and that was Mussolini, and that was those 5 dictators at the time. So they die, and they come right back. And now we got Trump. You try and explain to me how Trump became president. There's only one way he became president. Your previous loyalty. Yeah, that's it. It's only one way. The reincarnation, of Aleister Crowley. Someone you wouldn't appreciate today. You'd think, gosh, how would anybody follow this guy? He's a creep. Yeah. But he's not going to reincarnate as a creep in the next life. He's going to reincarnate as something that you're going to be appreciated of. And his name's going to be Diane. Yeah. And it'll change everything for everybody. And put an enormous curse on not just England, but the whole world. Yeah. Without anybody knowing it. Because it's in disguise. Complete disguise. Because you're in this la-la land of utopian ideology of loyalty. You couldn't not be in la-la land of utopian ideology of loyalty if you had followed the Dalai Lama through all of that shit, come out the other side and still be following them. Anything to make that happen. So that's why he is who he is. That's why he has a loyalty. Yeah. People, when you get your hands cut off, and you go through what they did to you, trust me, you have an obligation. You've been cursed. When your hand was cut off, you were cursed. There was intention behind every action that these Lunar Lords did to you. All the Jews and the millions of them that were killed by Hitler. And all the people that were killed by Hitler. Yeah, and all the Germans that believed that they should follow this guy. And all the people in Mussolini, and all the people in China, all the people in Hirohito in Japan. Yeah. Billions and billions of people, all loyalists following demons. That was our past life. Now in this life, we have the opportunity of nuclear holocaust. We had Chernobyl. We had Japan meltdown. We had 2 meltdowns in the United States. Yeah, all built by Lunar Lords who, like I said, in Texas, you don't just consider that it's going to get cold because you're a Lunar Lord. You're only there for the moment, for the money. You have no intuition. You don't care about this planet. You don't care about the people. And horrible things are going to happen. If you do fracking on this planet the way we've done fracking on this planet, the effect is earthquakes and lightning with enormous change in weather because it all comes from inside the earth. Every lightning bolt comes from inside the earth. Yeah. All the earthquakes that happen from platelets that are moving. When you do fracking, you change those platelets. You change them. They don't move as easy. Yeah. When you take all the water out from underneath the ground, the earth doesn't move the way it's supposed to. It's collapsed in gravity and pressure. So you're going to have enormous earthquakes, and you're not going to know when they're going to come because they're in a state of friction. They're not. They normally happen in cycles because they're moving. Yeah, but that's not anymore. And now we have opportunities of 8 to 10 major, super colossal magma earthquakes to go off simply because of this kind of behavior, yeah, that we've done to the earth. It's going to take a lot to change that and get that to go around. That's why I do soul therapy. That's why I do planetary healing. That's why I do what I do, because it affects the fact that we have giants in the earth, we have imperil all over the place, we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of civilizations that have all been cannibals, yeah, imperiling this earth through loyalty and hate, greed and avarice, yeah, in the worst possible way. And that's in the land, yeah. So it's hard for us not to build a Los Angeles or a New York or a Las Vegas or a Reno. It's hard for us not to do that. Yeah. It's hard for us to not pave over everything, get rid of all the trees, all the waterways, everything. Not have any conscious understanding as to what's the outcome of this, because there's no path to God. None of this, no God, nothing is considered in relationship to God. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what's going to change. The personality must take a specific relationship to God and change that they have no loyalty whatsoever to anything in a human body. None. Yeah, no loyalty. Yeah, I require no loyalty. Yeah, what comes from me comes from the soul. Yeah, so just knowing me is a blessing. If you call upon me, you'll be blessed. That doesn't require loyalty. Yeah, that doesn't require you, to believe in me, yeah, or follow any particular doctrine. Yeah, it's just a matter of the fact that I radiate the soul, transmit it. I live as the walking, talking soul. Yeah, and if we can listen to what I've got to say, why I say this shit, because we are bound by imperil and avarice. We have incarnation of lunar lords that are the demigods of avarice. Trump is, if you read the word avarice, you have to put that in as his middle name. There's no way to describe the guy other than avarice. Lascivious, maybe, but I think avarice pretty much points it out. Yeah. Imagine we got artifacts that are really old. Sitting here in this picture, you see over to the right is a spark plug. Yeah. And that's a spark plug. Yeah, made somewhere between the late 1800s and now. They're all the same. Have been, always have been, very similar. They don't change much. Because they work. Yeah, they work. So that means 50 million years ago, if it worked, we probably made it. Things were minimal. Yeah, we made things that worked. We used earth energy, we used magnetism, we used electricity, we used gravity, we used the flow of energy, like wind generators and things like that. The ability to fly by cruising on the waves of the wind. Not so much by motor, but more by glider and the ability to understand flight. I could show you model after model, hundreds of models that are 10 to 100,000 years old of airplanes. Airplanes. Not supposed to be able to see airplanes that old, but they existed, and they weren't little toys. They were examples of the nature of technology that was around. That's That's inside a rock. This is 500,000 years old. That's inside of a rock, and it's coiled. Most of these things are no less than 500,000 years. Now, we're not supposed to be more than, 15,000, maybe 100,000 years old, human beings, bent over, walking on all four, climbing trees, supposedly, yeah. But yet we're making tools, we're making technology, we're making batteries, yeah. We're creating electricity. 500 million years ago.
Inner handle underwent the carbonization process. The hammerhead was constructed with iron purity, and this is only possible with modern-day technology, according to research by Metallurgical Institute of Columbia. According to analysis, the head of the hammer consists of 97% pure iron, 2% chlorine, and 1% sulfur. This curious artifact was discovered in the city of London, Texas, USA, in 1934. The hammer appeared embedded inside a rock, and since its discovery, there have been many theories about its origin, and most importantly, its incredible age. So how did this hammer end up embedded inside the rock? Well, for the hammer to finish inside the rock, it had to have been built before the rock was formed, and that would be several million years ago.
That's right. A hammer, folks, made of steel, iron, different metals laid into it. Yeah. Impossible. Even 10,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, but 400 million years ago, how long have we been walking around? Been walking around for a long time. There's another video, I won't show it to you, but there's one where they found in Northern California, they found a mammoth, and the mammoth was 130,000 years old in the ground, and that its bones had been broken by a human being who had to take a large sledgehammer-like thing really hard and break those big-ass bones and cook them for the bone marrow. And they did that. And there were, teeth marks, and there was breaking of the bone, had to be done this particular way. So it just showed that, 300,000 years ago, mankind was very much active and intelligent and living in Northern California. Yeah. So it's not like 20,000 years ago or maybe 30,000 years ago we might have made our way into America. And this is just one little thing that's able to show itself after everything's been taken away. I mean, we have cities all over the place that are sitting on top of shit. We've had hundreds of thousands of acres, most of the United States, Boston, New York, Florida, Mississippi, California, Idaho, Ohio, all those areas were large cities of Native American pyramids. Pyramids, enormous cities, and what used to run those cities, which is about 15,000 years ago, what used to run them, why they had such big buildings, were giants. Yeah, and they were the slaves of the giants. They were the people who did the farming, the animals. All the cities were built around the giants. The giants were the political leaders, and they weren't really political. Yeah, and the giants were the spiritualists. Yeah, So you had to think every spirit thing that came out of the giant was direction from spirit. So they were the shaman. Yeah. And they were in league with the dead. They communicated with the dead. Yeah. Necromancy, that was their thing. Yeah. And that made everybody think, whoa, shit, that's going to be me when I die. They're going to be in charge of me. And they're going to require from me when I die. I better get loyal now. Or they're going to send me to hell. And I'm not going to be an aid to these beings. You got to study this stuff. You'll find that it's all a bunch of brainwashing, and it leads people into very bad behavior in their normal life. Yeah. So all of America had all of this on it, and on top of it, we had archaeologists and religious leaders come and wipe everything away. Yeah. Give it to the institute, and then they took ships of bones and artifacts and took it out to the sea and dumped it in the ocean. This is all written down. Yeah. So by the time we got to America, in the late 1700s, almost all of this had been cleared away. Yeah. Most of the Indians have been killed, pushed away out of their land, so we can have New York, Chicago, Boston, Florida, all those places. And before we can go there, we had to get rid of any evidence of the advanced technology and lifestyle that they lived. They had to get rid of it. That meant everything. The people, the memory, their language, everything had to be gotten rid of. That's really bad karma, people. That's really, 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 really bad karma. And it's affecting us. People like Trump, he just says, just drill another well in Alaska, run it through Canada, and have it come out of Dakota. That's just fine. That's perfect. Good place to bring it through. Let's do this. Let's make some more money. Yeah. Let's drill in Alaska and pump it on a pipeline across Canada and Alaska into America. That's the stupidest thing on earth. But, we've done it before. So why not continue doing stupid things? And we're not. That we have to use our soul to interfere with our personality. And that is a sixth ray, a knee-jerk scenario. Whether it be your king, your queen, your belief system of being a Jew or a Muslim or anything like that. It all has to go, whoa. Yeah. Complete? No. I'm just relaxed. I believe in God, and this is all going to come together. But all this other stuff is a manipulation of my mind in a lot of words. And it distributes this energy here of your throat center. And it changes your ability to carry the Holy Spirit that allows you to speak in the soul, to think in the soul. Yeah, to relate to another person as a soul. Yeah, and not as a person. Yeah, that's a long ways you're going to have to go to get from that to soul. It is quite a process. Yeah, but it's transfiguration. The whole of the personality has to be transfigured into a soul. It can't exist. The personality cannot exist. It can only be a soul. Yeah? Because a soul, the relationship of the personality is the expression of the soul. Yeah? So it can't be personality. It has to be the soul. And to be able to get to that, it's much higher, much more higher, but it's actually God, monadically. And that influence is what literally brings everything together. The will, your will, God's will, my will, your will, collective consciousness, the ability to see things without confusion. This whole thing of adapted telepathy that becomes common sense and intuition. Yeah. And that happens when the soul comes in and the personality goes away. It literally goes away. Yeah. It doesn't have a place in your body. It doesn't have a place in your mind. It doesn't have a place in your emotion. Your soul does. Your soul has to be your body. You have to eat like you have a soul. Yeah. You have to react, have emotions like you have a soul. Yeah. And you have to have a mind that's soulful. Yeah. It's constantly filling up with more and more wisdom that annihilates your ignorance and allows you to see things that connect together, and that creates understanding. When you can see the many variables of a given situation, which is open-mindedness, then you will develop understanding. But without that, you will always see it from your view. And if you have a personal view, you have a personality. Yeah. But if you see it from the heart, then you see it through intuition. You walk in another person's shoes. Yeah. And intuitively, you're seeing it together. You're communicating. You're expressing. You're not individuals. Yeah. That's really normal. It's really normal. But you're not taught this by lunar lords, And you go to church, and your church is headed by a lunar lord. You're going to go talk to the Dalai Lama, and he's a lunar lord. And you're going to go, I'm telling you, you got a lot of problems when you go and try and find someone who's not a lunar lord. Try and find a soul. And that's what Buddha is. That's what the avatar is. It's the incarnation of the soul. Yeah? Yeah? Does that make sense? All right. Let's pray. Okay, repeat after me. Lord Jesus the Christ, thank you for bringing me here. Lord Jesus the Christ, I open my heart today, and I invite you inside. Lord Jesus the Christ, come and save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you. My spirit, my body, my soul. Receive me, Jesus the Christ. Now, the devil, the blood of Jesus the Christ is against you. I command you now to leave me. I do not belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself from you. I renounce every evil covenant. I have entered in with you. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. So it's always been my teaching to try and help explain the reality of the soul. And everybody has a belief. You've been you've been given false teachings. And the teachings are that even though we are blessed to be beings with souls, it doesn't mean that we have a soul. And that of all the lives that we've had, and all those that have been served, and the way the world is coming about, it's totally based on personality and not soul. So it's not about judging people as not being soulful. It's about telling people the truth. That the personality is what it is. It's the material way of looking at things. It's how we own someone or something. And we get weird. We really do. When you possess something, you become obsessed. You don't want anybody else to have it. You don't want them to touch it. You don't want them to eat it. That's a wrong way of thinking. It's not a way of thinking. The soul thinks completely differently. It's humble. It feels it wants everybody to eat what you eat. Not that it's special just for you. The soul wants, everybody to have a soul. And it has all these characteristics of being nice and kind and generous and giving and caring, without obligation, without the sense that this is a one-time thing, this will never happen again. But the soul is consistent. The soul is like a constant, everlasting flow that comes from God. And if there is soul, it'll be like that. And that's why, in my case, I am the incarnation of the soul. And in all my lives, and every time you hear about my lives and what has happened in those lives, those are symptoms of the soul. And as an incarnation of Buddha, I'm always known as the soul boy. The incarnation of the soul. The incarnation of the avatar is the incarnation of the soul. It's a very big thing. It's a very special thing. God is the soul. The will of God is the soul. Nothing else is the soul. God gives you free will. That you built your personality with. But God also gives you his love, which is to give you a reference to realize you do not need your free will. You can develop trust and faith and kindness and caring, without obligation, without being patted on the back, without receiving honors or anything like that. You do it because it's what you do. It's not because it's the right thing to do. It's because it's what you do. And the soul is like that. The soul is a way shower. It doesn't ask for anybody's direction or guidance. It's the way shower. And that's your only path, is the soul. So God is where the soul comes from. God is a monad. The soul is the expression of the monad. And for you to understand God, that's why I'm teaching. So you can understand that God's been around for a long time. You've been around for a long time. This is a big lie that you've taken on. And for you to understand your auspiciousness, your place in God's plan, you have to realize the will that exists is only God's will. But you can't say that it's your will and God's will is the same. You have to free yourself up to take the teaching from his Son, who is the incarnation of the soul. And that way you get the light and the radiation, the healing, the faith, the trust, everything that comes from the throne seat of God, you get from that one being. Yeah. And that's the only thing that's going to save this earth. It's the only thing that's going to make everything right. It will heal fracking. Yeah. It will heal all the dangerous processes we've done to this earth and that we've done to humanity and that all the lunar lords have gotten us to do. It will heal it. All of it. Yeah. And regenerate it like it's Genesis. Because that's my job. That's what I do. I'm the element of Genesis. Yeah. Everything. You are not made from genes that are passed on from your mother, your grandfather. You're from Genesis. You're from the tree of life. You come from the Lord himself. He holds you in a process of reincarnation, not in this stupid, I'm the genetic offspring of my dad or my mom or my uncle or my race. Yeah. You have to see it, that you are Genesis, and you have to let go of your personality to allow the seed of Genesis to come into your being and wake up and have activity. Yeah. So this is a puja that helps to do that. It's called I Invoke the Alignment of God. All right, close your eyes and relax. as the fifth ray, as the knowledge of God. I invoke the sense of intuition as the second ray, the understanding of God. Synthesis of the seven rays to be expressed through your personality. As the first ray of ideas, the mental body, the purpose, your life. Second ray of ideals, the astral body and your quality. The third ray of items, your physical body and your form. The fourth ray of the fourth kingdom of humanity in balance. The fifth ray, the third kingdom, the animals. The sixth ray, the second kingdom, vegetables. The seventh ray, the first kingdom, minerals. I call upon the relationships of all the kingdoms to penetrate the personality of humanity and express its collective soul. The seventh ray and the fourth ray as the mineral kingdom. The second ray, the fourth ray, and the sixth ray as the vegetable kingdom. The third ray and the sixth ray as the animal kingdom. The fourth ray and the fifth ray as the human kingdom. The fifth ray and the second ray as the egoic soul. The sixth ray and the third ray as planetary lives. The first ray and the seventh ray as solar lives.
geomantic relationships of the soul, to integrate the egoic ray and the personality ray of each nation, and to express its true expression, to make manifest peace on earth as one living whole body of God. I call upon India to bring forth its fourth ray of personality and to integrate its first ray of soul to manifest the hidden light. I invoke China to bring forth its third ray personality, to integrate its egoic soul into its first ray, to manifest as the indication of the way. I invoke Germany to bring forth its first ray of personality, to integrate its egoic soul of fourth ray, to preserve the truth. I invoke France and its third ray personality to integrate its fifth ray of egoic soul to release the light. I invoke Great Britain and its first ray personality and its second ray egoic soul to bring forth its service. I invoke Italy and its fourth ray personality to integrate its sixth ray soul to carve the two paths. I invoke the United States and its sixth ray personality to integrate its second ray soul to light the way. I invoke Russia and its sixth ray personality to integrate its seventh ray soul to link the two ways. I invoke Australia and its fifth ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul and serve the lighted way. I invoke Spain and its seventh ray personality to integrate its sixth ray soul to disperse the clouds. I invoke Brazil and its second ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul to hide the seed. I invoke the entity of this planet, the planetary logos, to incarnate the life and the beingness of this planet. I invoke the expression of the second ray force into both the personality and the egoic rays of the nation and the personality of the egoic ray of humanity, to fuse itself and its light into its healing process. I invoke the esoteric law of solar energy to make manifest the cosmic force of light, love, and peace.
Okay, just relax and keep your eyes closed. You can open your eyes. So I take focus in specific areas of the planet, and from that focus, I plant my feet. I create a dharma center, or I have a place in which is a residence that I go to, and I have puja going on 24 hours a day. And that's in Nepal, that's in Hawaii and Maui, that's here in Kelseyville, that's in Omaha, and that's in Glastonbury. And we have quite a few in India and Tibet. But in those places, enormous change has happened in those places. And every single one, yeah? Whether it be in Nepal or in Tibet and the Dalai Lama and Dharamsala. I've placed Dharma Center there. I have disciples that live there and maintain the place and are keeping my energy strong in all areas. Yeah. So the things that the Dalai Lama was doing to create enormous anger and hostility and separation and suffering in humanity ended. It ended. 100% ended. Yeah. That's beyond any of their wildest imagination that such a thing would happen. Yeah. And it did happen. Yeah. And it happened because of me. And if you go to Glastonbury, there used to be witches walking down the street and covens of Satanists and Satan, books of Satan and witchcraft and warlock magicry and all this stuff, all the books you can imagine, all the ceremonial devices and all the recruiting that you could possibly get into was happening in that town. It's not happening there anymore. Yeah. Many of the witches who thought they would live out their life there died young and are no longer there. And the ones who thought they would stick it out moved. They don't live there anymore because they can't handle all the people on the street being saints, and that the people on the street are waking up and radiating light. And all they're doing is just eating sandwiches and enjoying a day-to-day blessing from me. Yeah. And they're dramatically changing. And the whole town is changing. You know, because they can't put these people down anymore. They used to look down their nose at them. They used to call them, you know, the lowest life. You know, we don't want them here. You know, now they all get fed. They all get taken care of. And they all dress very well because I clothed them. I put shoes on their feet. And I put gloves on their hands. I gave them tents and beds. Gave them food every single day. You know. And if they had any other need, if we can find out about it, we'd take care of it. We gave them really nice meals at Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know. And our favorite saint out of Glastonbury, Lady Heidi, you know, Saint Heidi, you know, she's been there since birth, you know. And she was the last person in town that anybody would ever think would turn out, that she would ever be happy, that she would ever not be depressed, she would ever not turn out to be the worst abused person in the whole town. But now she's the happiest, freest, cleanest, nicest person in town. And she receives a wonderful meal every day, a very special meal, because she's the town saint, you know. And she doesn't get any, you know, any hoopty-daw over it. I just love her, yeah, and take care of her. And she's doing great. And she's going to live a very long time, where all the witches and warlocks will die. And the people on the street will live. And yet they're supposed to be dead. Yeah, uncaring, not taking care of them, let them die in the cold every year, every winter, every summer. You know, just let them live through it. They're just, it's their choice. Yeah, whatever way they think, it's not soulful. Yeah, so we completely dramatically changed that town. Yeah, and Omaha, you know, it's going to be changed. It's the center of pedophilia in America. It's the place of prostitution and homosexuality and pedophilia. It's the number one place you can lose your soul quicker than any other place. It's not because you join the LGBT or anything like that. It's because the chances are the guy you're hanging out with is homosexual. And he's having sex with other men or children. And you don't know it. And you're going to suffer for it. You're probably going to die of it. And the innocence that is going on in that process, because it's all done in a lie, behind the scenes, in perversion, and thinking that they can pay for a child, pay for a woman, or just pervert a woman and get her to carry out whatever your lowest desires are. Yeah? Because it's a fallen nature of being the one who provides subservient reality in life. Yeah? That's Omaha, of all places. And that's got to change, and it's going to change. It's also the central point of nuclear war. It's the hub of the United States for nuclear war. It's the first point where we send out nuclear warheads. We send out bombers. We are waiting for a nuclear complete holocaust right there in Omaha. Yeah. And that's changing, dramatically changing. Yeah. I have reasons for everything I do. I have reasons. And no one ever figures it out. No one ever goes, he's there because he's saving Omaha, and Omaha is this and this, and these are the things he's going to change. Or he's there because he's saving Glastonbury, or he's saving Nepal, or he's saving Tibet, or he's saving India. And I am. I'm there because they're in the worst place held by the biggest demons on earth. Yeah. Yeah. So that is changing dramatically. Yeah. So by the year 2025, we'll have a whole new group of people manifested into areas because the old is getting old fast. And they're losing all credibility in holding on to the left-hand path. They're losing complete credibility. They're starting to get a conscience. Yeah. They're starting to sense maybe this won't work. Yeah. Maybe selling oil wells, to my constituents is not going to work next time. I'm going to have to change my entire political view because people out there have souls. And they want to take care of the planet. And they're wise enough to know there's a problem. And not as soulless as they were last year. Because this is a problem. Soullessness allows demons to work. It allows them to carry out their plans and destroy the planet. To keep you from all things that are good and right. Yeah. So they are being taken care of, but it's only being done because people are waking up. The more that you try and help other people realize that I'm here, that I'm doing soul therapy every night, that they can tap in, they can listen to it, they can deal with me, because I'm Jesus, You should be looking forward to talking to me or hearing from me, hearing every word I have to say. The words I have to say are not the words you're expecting, because you've never spoke to Jesus before. And it's the reason why I was put on the cross, because I'm that guy. I will knock the shit out of the devil without a question in my mind. I'm martial arts trained. I have nothing against battle. I have nothing against any of it. So that's in my nature. So I'm not in a wimpy state concerned for myself when I'm attacked by dark forces or individuals or things. I'm prepared, And if I go down, I go down. I'm prepared. I come back. But I don't go out without a fight. you know. And I expect that of everybody if you have a soul. The soul is what fights. Yeah, the soul is what keeps you from having any harm happen to you whatsoever. Because your soul integrates with whatever it is that is in the attack stage. You turn it around. You negotiate. You work through it. Yeah. And it changes things dramatically. You have no idea the working out of a plan. You don't even know there's a plan, you know, unless you actively get the soul into effect. Yeah. So that's it. Enjoy. Wake up, everybody.